Oh, look, you're back, and so am I, on YouTube. Anyway, I'm glad you're back, and I hope that you are ready to learn about how to get out of those boxes other people have put on us or we've put on ourselves and start living within lines that we can truly be responsible for, that will propel us forward into Christ's reality for our lives. Have you ever started something new in life, new diet, new schedule plan, and you thought everything was going to be easy peasy, and then things got worse? Well, I just want to warn you, when you start out really taking responsibility for what you are actually responsible for in life, things can get more difficult and people can misunderstand. I just want to prepare you for that. So today, let's talk about how to start drawing those lines that are going to help us escape the boxes that we've created in our own lives. So let's read Jesus' words in Mark. You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. So let's take each of these four areas and see how we might begin to confront those parts of us with the love of God and start loving God there. So let's love God first with all of our heart. Our heart is filled with beliefs, things that we know are true. And those beliefs drive feelings in our lives. Maybe they're insecurity, maybe they're confidence. And those feelings drive attitudes with which we approach life. In the movie The Big Short in 2015, there's a quote at the beginning of the movie that's attributed to Mark Twain, but you'd be hard-pressed to find it anywhere, but it's still a good quote. It says, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so." The Bible puts it this way: they refuse to love and accept the truth that would save them. Our beliefs have the ability to really wreak havoc in our lives, to create a great number of feelings that drive us in unhealthy ways, and attitudes that set up cycles that create bad reactions from other people. So what we need to do is love God from our heart, which means we need to accept Jesus into our lives in a sense. In Revelation 3:20, he says he's standing at the door knocking. We need to invite Jesus in and let him and his love and his essence and being of love confront our beliefs. Now, in the presence of love, our beliefs are laid bare. They're either true or they're a lie. As we realize what we believe that is true and what we believe that are lies, we begin to experience freedom and power in our lives. So we start, though, with loving God from our heart. Then Jesus moves into our soul. And from our soul, we experience desires. And those desires drive choices. And those choices often create patterns and behaviors that fill our lives, that are the way that we end up living. James had this to say about it: "You want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it. You're jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it away from them. Yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. And even when you ask, you don't get it because your motives are all wrong. You want only what will give you pleasure." We live in a world where everyone lives for what they want, who's trying to satisfy their own desires. And yet, when's the last time you met someone who was actually satisfied? Something's wrong with that picture. Something's not working like it should be. And that's because people are loving themselves with all of their souls when we need to love God with all of our souls. We need to submit our desires and our choices and our behaviors to Him. Because, believe it or not, according to Psalm 37, God wants you to have the desires of your heart. But He's also a very good Father. And He knows that a lot of things that we think we desire are actually not good for us. He wants things in our life. He wants to meet the true desires of our life, our real needs. And when we love God from our soul, we begin to clearly see what those needs actually are. So we start with loving God from our heart, then move into loving God with our soul. Then we begin to love God with all of our mind. It's true, you think a lot of stuff, don't you? Your brain probably never stops thinking. I don't know, maybe some people, but you're probably always chewing on something in there. Well, where this begins is with taking responsibility for what we think about, for our own thoughts. And I know that sounds like a challenging reality in a world that's just shoving thoughts into our minds through our ears and eyes in every way it can, every second of every day. But who's responsible for what you think about if it's not you? The truth is, all of those marketing attempts and all those things that are coming at you are really assaults on you You need to take responsibility for what you think about and love God from your thoughts. The Bible puts it this way: we are taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. We're responsible for what we think about. We're responsible to expand our thinking, to put new thoughts in there, to learn new things, to process those things, and to challenge old thoughts. Things that we think about that aren't accurate, that aren't quite shaded correctly, that are the wrong perspective. The point is, to love God with all of our mind is to begin to love God with our thoughts. And those thoughts create our values. And often many of the challenges in our life come from the fact that we value the wrong things. For example, we might value people liking us rather than the approval of God. It can drive a lot of terrible behaviors in our life. So, now we've seen love God with all your heart, love Him with all your soul, love Him with all your mind. Now we love Him with all of our strength. I know you know that you're not Superman or Superwoman. You are a person who has limits. It's time we acknowledge that for ourselves, because we're not really doing that well. We normally are allowing everyone else, because of our need for security and confidence or what have you, we are allowing other people to push us beyond our limits. And only you can know your limits, the limits of your strength, the limits of your compassion and kindness, the limits of your finances. God gave you a lot of gifts and resources in this life to use to help people, to take care of your family, to take care of you. But they are all limited. No one is infinite. And we need to acknowledge that and be honest about it, because we need to use our strength to love and worship God. That needs to be a big part of what we do and who we are. And if we do that, love God with our strength, worship Him out of who we are, out of that strength, then it makes it easier. It helps us love others out of God's love rather than our own strength. Because the truth of the matter is, this is about real and authentic love. So many of us live our lives being pushed beyond our limits by others, and it causes us to be resentful. Once we begin to resent what we are having to do, we are no longer operating in love. You can read 1 Corinthians 13 and find out all about what love really is. God wants us to operate in real love. But in order for us to do that, first we need to experience His love. Then we need to reflect that love back to Him. And in doing so, we need to realize that we're responsible for the limits of our strength and the resources we actually possess. We're responsible. And so when we find ourselves becoming resentful, that needs to be an indicator that there's something wrong either in this relationship or this duty or this action. Well, now you see the places where we need to start drawing the lines. We need to think about really where we need to take responsibility. I hope it's a good start. We have a lot more to talk about, so I'll see you next time.